community call, the March edition. Thank you for joining, and good morning, good afternoon from wherever you might be. So you know what happens every month? We, our team, we get together. We discuss all the cool projects that we're currently working on. We'd like to show you some of the blogs and things our team has been writing that we think that will help you, just in case you are using WSO2 Identity Server. But if you're not and you've joined because you're curious and you want to find out what's going on, that's totally fine as well. I'm Ishara. I'm from the product marketing side of things at WSO2 Identity Server. We have a couple of cool sessions today as well. We'll get into that. But before we start with the sessions today, I just want to remind everyone today we want to ensure that we have everyone join us the call directly. So at any point, if you have any questions, if there's anything that you want to get clarified, especially during the sessions or afterwards, or at any point, if you do have any questions that you want to ask us, feel free to let us know, unmute yourself, or maybe raise your hand, or you can simply just unmute yourself and let us know if you have any questions, because our entire team and product experts are here and they'll be able to help you out. So if you're not doing this already, one thing you can do is follow us on our Twitter channel, look for WSO2IS community, and you can check out all the updates that all the things that the team is up to. Obviously, last few tweets are about the community call today. And also we have something called Identity in 15 happening once every 2 weeks. And Ashin, who did the last Identity in 15 demo session, will be doing a session today as well. We'll tell you more about it as we go along. Also, if you want to engage with the team directly, ask some questions and stuff, we have an awesome community on Slack. You'll be able to find a link in the invitation as well, and also on GitHub. You will be able to join Slack and then ask any sort of question that you have about using WSO2 Identity Server, anything that you can run into, and we'll be happy to help you out there if you're not a user as yet. I want to take you guys through some of the blogs that the team has been writing. So one of them that I want to take you through was writing a custom local authenticator for WSO2 Identity Server 5.11, which was released a few months back. So what this blog will take you through is the main steps that is required when introducing a custom local authenticator to the identity server, step by step. It's something that's written by Pamoda, who is quite involved in our documentation. Another blog that I wanted to show you guys today is account lock-in based on OTP failed attempts. So Anuradha takes us through, all about, brute force attacks and what sort of steps that you can take to avoid it with using WSO2 Identity Server. And also if you have been following our releases quite closely, you may have heard that we have been providing more and more support when it comes to SDKs and stuff as well. With our last release, we provided support for Android and .NET and Java, and also this blog takes you through how you can integrate auth Angular SDK with WSO2 Identity Server, and it's written by Janit Ganepul. It's very comprehensive, giving you an explanation as to what is Angular and then how you can integrate that easily with WSO2 Identity Server. So with that, I just want to, tell you, let's get started with our sessions. But once again, if you just joined, just a reminder that if you have any questions, feel free to let us know, and our team will be happy to take you through it. So let's get started. I think we have Nuanga Herat today to present our first session. So he will be talking to you about gRPC integration for WSO2 identity event handlers. So he'll be giving an introduction about gRPC, and then talk about gRPC-based event handlers, and then take you guys through a demo as well. So over to you, Nuanga.
Okay, thank you, Sharaka. Hello everyone. Today I'm going to do a session on gRPC integration for WSO2 identity event handlers. So first of all, I would like to give you an introduction to gRPC, as I hope some of you may know not much familiar with the gRPC. Let's see what is the gRPC. So gRPC is a remote procedure call system, which is initially developed at Google. It can connect microservices, and also it can use to connect client and servers as well. So now you may wonder why we have to use gRPC when we have commonly use REST. For that, I would like to give a little comparison to show that some of the pros of gRPC over REST. So first, it's 7 times faster than REST when sending request, and it's come to the receiving. It 10 times faster than REST, and unlike the REST, GRP uses HTTP 2 network protocol, as REST use HTTP 1, and HTTP 2 is faster than HTTP 1. And also, unlike the REST, gRPC uses protocol buffer to serialize the payload data, which is binary and lighter weight. So that means that the gRPC work well in a network constrained environment. So and the main advantage of using gRPC uh, is that it has the ability to run and talk in variety of environments. That means that it uses uh, actually a platform independent uh, environment. So I will talk more about later. So then let's look at how that connecting with the client connecting with the servers happen. Uh, so let's look at this high level architecture and the diagram. So on the left side, you can see the service. Name is at a cafe 2024, and in that service, you can see the gRPC server, which has two methods, uh, and the implementation of that methods are in the server side, and on the client side, in the right side, you can see a gRPC stub. So that gRPC stub is connected with the gRPC server, and the stub is also provide the same methods as the gRPC server. So to call the method on the gRPC server from the client side, so it has to only call that same method which provided by the gRPC stub using that gRPC stub. So that's the actually the process of connecting that gRPC server and the gRPC client. And now you may have question how that link up is built, right? So let's look at how that part is happening is. So uh, so in gRPC, uh, first we have to define a gRPC service. That means that we have to define the service methods that we are going to implement on the server side, and the gRPC message types some actually it's like what the request and the response, right? So here you can see that service that actually I used in that diagram as well, and you can see that two service methods as well. So and that methods we have that request is the order message, and the response is a delivery message. So in the order message, we also have to define that order message as well, so by giving some parameters here. You can see the uh, you can see here how is that going to put it and it. So that's the service definition. We actually we define that in a proto file, which is used to compile using protocol buffer compiler. So that using that by compiling that protofile, we can generate data access classes which are used to implement the servers, gRPC servers and gRPC stubs. So, uh, so now, yeah, that when that language independency is going to implement our system, so only we have to do is that we can let's assume that we have a client in like Java, right? So in that case, uh, we have to compile that the protofile using protocol compiler to have the data access classes in Java. So using that data access classes, uh, we have to implement the gRPC stuff in the client side, right? So and that and
Sorry
also
to
that,
interrupt you. It seems you are getting a noise from your mic. Can you check?
all right. Uh, how about now? Yeah.
Still you are getting it. No, it should be okay. We can hear you very well. You can proceed.
All right. So now as I mentioned before that we now implement the client in Java, and let's see that we are like to implement the server in any gRPC support language like Python, Go, Ruby, C++, and so there are many supported language. So uh, we can implement server in any gRPC support language. To do that, we have to compile that same protofile using protocol buffer compiler uh, to generate that data access classes in that gRPC supported language. So that means that we can generate the data access classes in Python as well. So using that data access classes, uh, we can implement the server. So uh, so that's how the link up is built. That the idea is that we have to use same gRPC service definition to the both. So that means that we have to use the same protofile to generate data access classes for the client and for the service, right? Uh, so the and then I would like say that why we are planning to integrate gRPC to WSO2 Identity Server. So the main objective is that the language independency. That means that after integrating the gRPC into WSO2 Identity Server extensions, so the developers not necessarily have to limit it to the Java, right? So so that the developer or user can use any language or a platform that he or she familiar with. So that's the main objective of using gRPC integration to the WSO2 Identity Server extensions. So that's the introduction to gRPC. So let's move to the uh, introduction to the gRPC based identity event handler. So for that I will use README file of the uh, identity event handler gRPC incubator repository. You can find that in a WSO2 incubator repository. So first let's look at what is the event handler. Event handler is something like which used to trigger some operations upon some particular event, right? So when that event happens, that uh, using the event handler, we can perform that operation. So that's the idea of the event handler. So when it comes to gRPC identity event handler, it's enables user to implement platform independent event handlers. So uh, let's look at this high level architecture diagram. Uh, you can see that in the left side you can see the identity server. Inside the identity server we have that event handler component, and inside that event handler component we have the gRPC stub which connects to the gRPC server. So So in this case, in this gRPC based event handler, we define the handle methods which are going to trigger in the server side. So all the implementations and the recognition first are happen in the server side. So using this gRPC based event handler, uh, the developer or user can implement the server in any gRPC supported language in the server side that perform or define the methods in the server side. So it can be not necessarily have to be Java, as I mentioned before. The developer can prefer any gRPC support language like Python, Ruby. So that's the idea of the gRPC based identity event handler. So first, let's move to uh, uh, the configuration part. So first, we have to implement the gRPC server. So for that, we provide the service.port file to user. So the developer, he has to use this protofile to generate data access classes to implement the gRPC server. So and then we can implement the service methods as he or she like that. So so then so for this demonstration, I have already implemented two servers in Java and Python. Mhm. Yeah, you can see the Python server which runs locally here. And Python server is use that same profile which we provided, and data access classes. You can see this, right? And the this is the Python server, and the Java server which is also running locally. You can see here. It's also use the same profile, and it has generated Java data access classes as well. And also in this demonstration, I will use gRPC server which is deployed on the Google Cloud Platform as well, which is already running. So yeah, uh, so then move to the configuration of the identity server. So first of all, we have to download the uh, gRPC event handler jar file. So we provide the link for that, and also uh, you can build it from the source by download the clone in the this repository in your local machine, and simply using maven build you can generate the jar file, and then we have to place the jar file into the drop-ins directory of the identity server, and then we have to add some event handler configuration to the deployment toml file uh, to configure the identity event properties file. So for do that, we have this is the template for the those configuration. First, we have to give the handler's name, and then we have to add each handler's configuration. Like here in this, here you can see the event that we are going to subscribe for for the triggering part, that after getting some event, when that event triggers, that event is that operation that we are in defined in the event handler is triggered. So and then we have to add the here you can see the host and port configuration of the gRPC server that we are going to connect our gRPC based event handler. Then in this part line, this is the adding the TLS certificate for the authentication, right? So this is a sample configuration you can see here, uh, right? So also, other than that single gRPC event handler, we also can have the behavior of the multiple event handlers using that gRPC event handler. So the difference is that we only use the single event handler component, but inside that event handler, we define multiple gRPC uh, stubs which are connected to the different gRPC servers, right? In that case, we have to add the configuration like this. You can see here. First, we have to under the gRPC stack, we have to add the handlers name as a list, and then uh, we have to add uh, handler configuration for the each handlers. So for this our case, you can see the configuration that I have added to the deployment domain file here, right here. So, in this line, I added the handlers names list, and then each handlers configuration you can see here, uh, like in this demonstration, I at the subscription event uh, as a that's post-add user and pre-add user as a subscription event for the handlers. So as we can triggers that event by adding a user to the identity server. So here are the three identity event handlers that I'm going to connect in this demonstration, and the configuration of that here. So as yeah, so the configuration part is over. Now we have to uh, run the sample. So first we have to start the gRPC servers. So the server on the cloud, Google Cloud Platform is also running, and our Python local server is also I made run, and it's also running, and the Java server as well. So they are running, right? Yeah. Then we have to start the WSO2 Identity Server. Here is the command for that. So using that, you can simply start the Identity Server. So I also already run the Identity Server as well. So the servers are running. So next, so as I at the event as pre-add users and post-add users. So, let's check the working of the handler by adding a new user to the identity server. So let's add user. Yeah. Let me log into the console and then add the user. Okay. Yeah. Name the user as IAM com, right? Or like this, like yeah. And password. Yeah, you can see that the user is associated to the identity server. Let's check the logs in the our shell, right? In where our server is running, identity server. You can see the log that is written from the this is Python server, remote Python server. It's written that our user is uh, the event treated data that we are sent to the remote server, uh, like username and tenant domain, something like that. And in this line, you can see the log sent from the uh, Google uh, one server that we deployed the Google Cloud. And finally, you can see that the one return from the Java local server, and also from the server side. Here you can see the that uh, uh, method is called when that user added. You can see that IAM.com user is added. So that event created data is sent to the uh, servers. And in the Java server as well, you can see the following logs. And in the cloud server, uh, let's check. Yeah, uh, you can see the logs here. Mm, right. So that's the demonstration from my side, and yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Nwanga. Do we have any questions for Nwanga on gRPC before we move on to the next session? If you do have any, feel free to share it on the chat. If you don't feel like being the first to ask the question, you can set it on the chat and we'll be happy to take it towards the end. Or if anyone wants to, feel free to do that. Our team will be happy to take it on. Or like I said, we can leave it to the end of the session. I think we are ready for our next session at the Identity Server community call. So the next one is going to be on IdP session extending with block third-party cookies. So this has been quite a challenge for a lot. So we thought, let's figure out, let's talk about the problem about, block third-party cookies and, how it really affects consumers, especially using Identity Server, and then we'll take you through a demo on showing how WSO2 Identity Server solves it through session extending endpoint as well. So for this, we have Ashing, who is a part of our identity ecosystem team. Over to you, Ashing.
Hi, everyone. In today's community call, I will be discussing how browsers beginning to block third-party cookies have affected the traditional session extension mechanisms and the solution we have devised to overcome the issue. So let me start by sharing my screen. Yeah. So as some of you may already know, browsers such as Safari and Firefox have begun to block third-party cookies being sent with requests. And Google Chrome is also not that far behind, as they have started gradually phasing this out. And by the end of 2021, Google Chrome will also have blocked third-party cookies completely. So this would affect our existing approach used to extend sessions at the identity provider, as it is reliant on cookies. So let me explain how session extension is usually done with OpenID Connect. So when you log into your application using the identity server, you will create a session at the identity server and register the time at which you created the session as the last access time. So this means that the session will expire when the session timeout time has elapsed since the last access time that was registered earlier. So your application will have to keep track of this, and then when the session is about to expire, the application will have to send a passive authentication request to re-authenticate you and update the previous last access time to the latest time. And this would in turn extend your session. So just for the context, this passive authentication request is a simple OpenID Connect authorized request with the parameter prompt set as none. So what this does is it would silently try to authenticate the user. If this succeeds, your application will continue the session seamlessly. But if it fails, your application would redirect you to login. So for this passive authentication request to work, the common auth ID cookie is needed. So if this request is being initiated in a third-party context, and if your browser blocks third-party cookies, the cookie will not be sent and this entire session extension flow will fail. So I have talked about a lot regarding this passive authentication request. So let me just demonstrate it for you to make it easier. Here I have with me a modified sample app for demonstration purposes. And you can see here the request, this is the passive authentication request here. You can see that's a simple authorized request. And this prompt none parameter has been given. So So before I send the session extension request, let's just check the details of our session. To do that, I just send a simple GET request to our sessions API. And yeah, as you can see, this is the last access time here. And it's an epoch time. So let's convert it to a readable format. And you can see that according to my time zone here, the last access time is 10:31 p.m. and 3 seconds. Okay, so let's try to extend our session. And here in this context, third-party cookies have not been blocked. Okay, so yeah, I've sent the authentication request, and it has not returned an error. It's been shown in red. It's because this 302 redirect has not been handled properly. So let's just ignore that for the moment. So you can see that in this request, if you head over to request headers, you can see that the common auth ID cookie has been sent. And in the response location, there is no error description mentioned or anything like that. So just to confirm that the session has indeed been extended, let's head back over to our sessions API and repeat the request. And if you were watching closely, you can see that the last access time has been updated. Let's check again. So initially it was 10:31, and now it's updated to 10:32. So this was when cookies are not being blocked. So let's see what happens when third-party cookies do get blocked. So, so in my Google Chrome settings, I have altered the incognito mode to block third-party cookies. So let's just open this app in an incognito mode browser. Okay, so before we proceed, let's clear our previous sessions so this response will not get cluttered. Okay, sessions have been cleared. Yeah, so now let's try to log in again. Okay, so a session has been created again. Yeah, so the last access time is equal to the login time. And if we check again back in our browser here. Yeah, so now the last access time is 10:33 p.m. of the session. Okay, so now the context is we are in incognito, third-party cookies are being blocked. So now let's try our passive authentication request now. Okay, so it's been sent, and as you can see in this response location here, we can see there's an error description and also an error mention. And if you head back over to authorized request and down to our request headers, you can see that the cookies have not been sent. Okay, and also to confirm, this is the last access time, the previous last access time. And if we check our sessions again, yeah, so it has not been updated. So the session has not been updated when the cookie when the cookie gets blocked. Okay, so to overcome this, we have introduced a new API which is able to extend sessions without using any cookie. This API is called the Session Extending API, and it is available by default in the latest version of the public product. You can access this API using this link given here, and also you can refer to this documentation, and it would guide you through the setup and proper use. But here I will also be briefly demonstrating how to use this API and get your sessions extended when third-party cookies have been blocked. So yeah, so like the passive authentication request required a cookie to properly identify the session at the server, this API also requires some kind of an identifier to properly identify the session. So that identifier will be made available as a claim in your ID token. So yeah, so let's head back over to our incognito browser. And if we check the claims of our ID token, you can see there's a claim called ISK, which stands for IdP Session Key, and this is the value of that claim. So this is your session identifier that you need to send in the request to the session extending API. So yeah, so this is our new method which uses the session extending API. And if you see the URL that I'm using, you can see that the path that I've used to refer to this API is identity/extend-session. And the session identifier is being sent as IdP Session Key as a request parameter. And this is a simple GET request. So let's try to extend our session using our new API. And here it's important to note that we are still in the incognito mode and the cookies are being blocked. So just to recap on our earlier session. Okay, so this is the last access time, which is 7:450. And now let's send our extension request. Okay, so it has been sent and we've got a 200 OK. So that means the session has been successfully extended. And in the request header also, we are not seeing any cookie, common auth ID cookie has not been passed. And let's check how our session extension, whether it has been done successfully. Okay, so yeah, you can see that the last access time has indeed been updated. And if we check over here, yeah, it is 10:37 p.m., which is right now. Okay, so yeah, so this is how you can get your sessions extended without having to rely on cookies. It is very easy to use and implement, and you can learn more regarding this in this official documentation that I'm showing you right now. The link will be provided down in the description below later. Yeah, so that's it regarding the session extending API. Back to you, Ishara.
Cool, thanks, Ashin. If anyone's got questions, now's the time that you can do that. If you like, you can unmute yourself and ask your questions. Our team would be happy to take it, or you can simply send it on chat as well. And I think while we do that, one of the ways that we get our questions also is on Slack. So I think we could perhaps move on to that and see how we can answer some of those. Or if there are any questions you guys like to ask, feel free to do that. Okay, I thought we will pick some questions that we've got on Slack till everyone who's joined either types it in. Okay, so one of the questions we have is all right, should we go to this one? Hi all, I have deployed WSO2 IS on Kubernetes cluster along with other Java applications, trying to access SOAP admin services internally within Kubernetes cluster from my other Java applications using HTTPS and 943 port, but receiving a certificate issue. The HTTPS URL hostname does not match the common name. Make sure server certificate is correct. Disable this. Does anyone have a solution on how to fix this issue without disable CN check?
Yes, yes, Ishara. So by having a look at this question, I can see the environment is not actually given here. So I'm not exactly sure what environment you're running at. So either it can be a local environment or a production environment. So I would like to give a generic answer for this question. If it's a local Kubernetes cluster, you might have a self-signed certificate. Therefore, if there's any mismatch between the defined server hostname in your deployment YAML file and the actual domain name that you are going to serve the IS, so if there's any mismatch, this issue might come. So therefore, you have to make sure that the initial configuration and the current configuration is same as given. You can verify this by comparing your host file hostname and the hostname given at the resident identity providers. So you can just simply go to the identity server management console. From there, under the identity providers, you can find the resident identity provider section. So from there, you can find the host name that you have defined for the identity server. So make sure your host name is equal to the domain name that you are actually hosting on. So by having a look at your question, I can see your host name is something like WSO2 IS-service. So that's your host name. So that has to be equal to all the services that you are running. If it's a hosted Kubernetes cluster, so it can be a production environment. You might be trying to serve the identity server with a different domain other than the one you have actually defined in the deployment YAML file. So basically, what we have defined in the YAML file is the one you have given in the answer, right? So therefore, a SSL mismatch can occur if there's any difference. And make sure your IS deployment's initial hostname is equal to the domain name that you have actually serving on. For AWS users, you might experience this sort of issue because of the certificate manager's ARN is not declared in the ingress config. Therefore, make sure to add your ARN as an annotation for ingress config. Apart from that, there's another possible scenario this can occur. Also, you have to check the Kubernetes services YAML config file. In the YAML config file, you can find the hostname that is declared there. So make sure all host names are going to be equal. So other than if there's anything else, there can be a CA mismatch issue. So hope that answers the question.
Thank you, Suresh. That was super comprehensive. I think we can move. There's another question that I picked out that we thought we can answer. I think we got it from Kalaivani. Hi, can anyone let me know how can we set retention period for carbon log file in WSO2 IS with the 5.10 version? Example, after 90 days, carbon log files should be deleted. Who will be taking this?
So it seems like it's her problem is something like she need to delete all the log files. So normally we for IS we don't have something like something straightforward configuration just to configure the retention period, but we use log4j2 for handle logging. So since 2.5 log4j2 we have custom delete action. So since like we use the default rollover, so like we can define a rollover after this much of a time, or after log files get into this size, we need to do the rollover. So we can define that. So in each rollover, we can define something like deletion check and delete all log files. So we can delete an action saying delete, so delete these files, and by these files we can define the files in various forms. Like we can specify the names using the regex. So in that case, in this case, I think she's asking for the carbon log file. So I think we can define a regex for carbon WSO2 carbon -star.log. So that could be the regular expression. And since she's asking for 90 days, after 90 days, so we can define the age as well. And we can keep the count, we can define a count and a size. Like we can define a count to keep the most recent 3 or 5 or something like that, keep the most recent one. Or we can define a size, keep the most recent files up to this much of a megabytes, let's say 500 megabytes, we can retain that amount and delete others. Yeah, we can do that kind of a configuration. So I think I can reply to that thread. I do have some sample configuration also.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful. Yeah. Cool. Thank you. Okay, there's another bit of a long one. We got a question from Rajiv. Hi team, I'm using the WS27 generated token using API. When I decoded the token using jwt.io, I'm getting the following payload. Sharing payload on the screen. Try to call an authorized API. It is showing for ones that is not authorized. Can anyone help on how to fix this? Is there any way to remove auth from payload? The issue comes in local server only. I have deployed it on a server where in payload we are not getting auth and able to call API. Thanks for your help in advance. Can we take this question as well?
Yeah. So So looking at the question, I think we are missing a few like details to give the exact answer, but like so some of his assumptions like I feel might be a bit wrong, but it's like if we take so what's like presented here is the token, like so looking at that it looks like a self-contained JWT token, and so the particular claim that he has asked whether we can remove or not, so that is basically like a marker to say like what kind of token has been taken. So looking at this, it's a token taken for a user. Yeah, so the parts that are missing is so like the which is the API he is calling, and like so who is kind of enforcing the API security there. So I probably guess like it could be a case where so there are only two types of token that we can take. So from IS, like one is as a user you can use grant type like password grant or authorized code grant. So you can take you can get a token from identity server authenticating as a user. So the other way is you can authenticate as an application and get a token. So the default way to do that is using a grant type called client credential. So my guess is like either that the API that is calling it is looking for a token token issued for an application, not for a user. So that could be a mismatch there. But to exactly say what could be the issue, like we need some more information, like to say what's the API and what's the API and what kind of policies they have there. Yeah. So regarding whether we can get rid of this, so we don't have a way to get rid of this. Like, so this is kind of like a metadata of the token. So to think that this would cause an issue, it's very kind of a rare chance that this claim could be the issue. Most probably the issue could be that the token that works could be of the other type. So and the fact that in his local environment the issue comes in the local environment, he can see the see this particular claim, and in the other environment he cannot see. Maybe those two are in like different versions, or could be like different WUM updated levels or something. So yeah, to give a definite answer for this, we might need some more information. So I'll reply
More context, no?
for more context.
Cool. Thanks, Farah. But based on assumption, I think we did our best to answer that. Okay, so I thought maybe those would be a few questions that we could take on Slack. But if there is any other question from anyone who's joined on the call and has for the team, you can do that now. If not, there is always the option to join a Slack channel. If you go to even the YouTube live stream right now, you could see the link to our Slack channel. You can send in your questions as well. I think that wraps up everything that we had in store for the community call today. So I want to thank everyone for joining. Couple of updates is that our next community call will be held on the 29th of April. So do tell your teams if this is your first time on the community call, and if you like what you saw, do tell your teams and your colleagues as well to be a part of the Identity Server community call, because we'll be talking about interesting things and the projects that the team is working on. And also on next Tuesday, we have our Identity in 15 demo happening as well. TV from our team will be presenting on Azure AD Federation with WSO2 Identity Server, which I think is going to be an interesting session. And that we will post the link for that on our Slack channel as well. So just in case you want to RSVP and make sure you attend that, that'll be a 15-minute demo just for you to see how fast you can do it with the Identity Server.
One last comment before we wind up. So maybe some of you are already aware that Ishar is ready to take up another exciting, challenging opportunity towards the mid next month. So we are definitely going to miss you, Ishara. And I would like to take this opportunity on behalf of the team to thank her for everything she has done for the Identity Server as the product marketing manager over the last few years. She helped us a lot to be a strong performer in the Forrester CIM Wave, and a leader in the KuppingerCole CIM Leadership Compass, and a leader in many other analyst reports. And she also helped us a lot to build the community around Identity Server. So we are doing this, the community call, like this few months now, since towards the end of last year we started this, and she's doing this Identity 15 on our YouTube channel. And also she helped a lot to build the community around Slack. And apart from that, she also led many initiatives to make the Identity Server messaging more appealing. So thank you very much, Ishara. Again, so we are going to miss you, and wish you all the very best for everything that you have planned. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhat. In order to do all that, there always has to be, a good product. So, most often for me, it's just making sure that I did right by the team. And I'm hoping that I did, because you guys have, come up with an awesome product that we know that is definitely on par with everything else out there in the identity space. So thank you for giving that opportunity to me. It's all the work that you guys did. I just want to make sure that, I gave all the support I can. So thanks, Prabhat. Thanks, team. And thanks for letting me host. I had a good time. Thanks, everyone, for joining again. We will see you next month on the community call, or if not, at our demo next week. Thanks. Good night. Good morning. Bye.